Okay, well, welcome to another episode, if you like, of 5 Minutes with Hanson. And I was recently asked by one of our gymnastics coaches, and they were looking at the concept of how do we make sure that our athletes, our gymnasts, are ready to perform when it absolutely matters. And if you've done any of the work around Athlete Tough, you know that that's one of our qualities. Tough athletes tend to get it right, or close to right as can be, when it does matter the most. And so the challenges that we're faced around this, it doesn't matter whether you're a gymnast, a rower, a basketball player, tennis, a swimmer, a cross athlete, whatever it might be, the reality is that it's the same for all of us. And what I like to talk a lot about is this concept of what we call your performance code. And it took me a long time to work out what mine was. When I'm talking about a performance code, I remember vividly being talked to about your arousal curve, and if you're, too excited, too pumped up, too aggressive, too whatever, your performance declines. And if you're not enough, then your performance is not quite right either. But I figured there had to be a little more to it. And through some of the mentors that I worked with over the years, I was exposed to this concept of what we call this success or performance code. And it's basically three key parts. And this will work for anyone. All right, and will also work later in life if you're preparing for a presentation or a job interview or whatever it might be when you need to perform at your best. So the performance code is three things. One, it's your physicality. Your physicality is literally your body language. It's how you breathe, it's how you move, it's how you act. And there's a certain way. If you look at a basketball player who's having a phenomenal game, you'll see the way that they move around the court. You look at a tennis player who's playing well, you'll notice the way that they hold themselves with their posture and their breathing, and again, the way that they physically move themselves around the court. The same as when you look at a gymnast before they perform at their absolute best. What is their physicality? How are they standing? And so your physicality is a massive piece of the equation. The other part is your psychology, and that is literally that voice that you have inside your head when you're thinking, okay, what are the words that you're processing? What are you saying to yourself? And people will say you've got to clear your mind, but the reality is that's still a thought process to clear your mind. You might be saying, clear my mind, clear my mind. Others might be thinking about, well, what are the words that I need to hear? And essentially your voice inside your head, your psychology, that is your own expression of your thoughts. And they will do one of two things. They will either help you or they'll hurt you. The reality for us is that as athletes, we need to recognize those thoughts that are not helping us. So standing up and about to perform, whether it's taking a winning free throw in a basketball game or sitting at the Olympic final and making sure that you want to get those first strokes absolutely perfect, the last thing you want to be thinking about is, I hope I don't stuff this up. That's an example of a thought that a lot of athletes have, which is completely unhelpful. So what do we focus on? That's going to take you some time to work out. But that's what we mean by your psychology, that voice inside your head. What is it saying to you? The other part is your emotional state. Okay, now your emotional state is literally how do you want to feel in order to perform at your best. Okay, do you want to be excited? Do you want to be happy? Do you want to be apprehensive? How nervous do you want to be? What level of adrenaline do you need? And what level of adrenaline do you want? I vividly remember for myself thinking about this process when I first got told about it. I thought, I'm going to actually put this into practice this weekend. And I had a race coming up, number of races over the space of the weekend. And I always used to toy around with the idea of that I never liked feeling nervous. And so I didn't like that feeling of butterflies and adrenaline. So I'd say to myself, race doesn't matter, this is no big deal, this is just another training session. And as a result, I was not overly excited when I sat on the start line. I was certainly not aggressive. And it even got to the point where it's not even assertive in how I conducted myself in the race. And as a result of that, I started slowly. I came out slowly, and you look around and you're behind everyone else. And suddenly you realize I better get moving here, and you start to become more assertive and more aggressive, and suddenly I started moving through the field. But what I learned from that experience was that feeling that way, that is more passive and relaxed and a little bit too calm, was not helping my performance at all. I actually needed some adrenaline. The adrenaline would give you some speed for free. And so for me, I needed that, but I needed it to not a 5 out of 10, I needed it to a 7 out of 10. There's other guys that I rode with, they needed it to an even higher level than that. And some others would naturally be really high in that, and they needed to actually bring it down in order for them to perform at their best. And so the whole point of this success code, performance code, is that it's going to be unique to you. And so the thing about those three areas, so it's your physicality, it's your psychology, and it's your feeling, it's your emotional state. Those three things are linked together. They treat clinically depressed people with laughter therapy, for example. It's not about telling them jokes where they can, think their way through what's funny. It's literally just forcing people to laugh. It's the same as if you want to feel happier, you can often think about a happy memory that you had in the past. If you want to feel confident, you can literally stand in a confident way where if someone was to push you over, they couldn't move you. And so one thing links to the other, which is the great thing about that model, is that you can start wherever you like. You can start purely on your physicality. You can start with your breathing. You can even think about your thoughts. You can start with that because you know that your thought process will affect how you feel, which will affect how you physically stand and act. And so your challenge is this one. Your challenge is to treat your competition day, regardless of what sport you're in, as importantly as you treat your practice. Now that is something that I rarely see athletes do. Most of them treat practice like practice. If you treat your practice like it's a competition and you take a level of pride in your performance every time you go out to do your thing, what you'll do is you'll start getting yourself physically, mentally, and psychologically ready, emotionally ready to perform. And so you get more opportunities to practice what is the performance code which is going to work for you. It's the same as a basketball player when they stand on the free throw line. What are they saying to themselves? If they're doing as many free throws as they can in a row, are they saying this one is to win the game? This free throw counts. Or are they saying, okay, I get another chance. If I miss this one, I'll just get another chance to have another free throw and I'll start again. When you measure stuff, when you really pay attention to the numbers, it places an additional level of pressure on you. And that's what you got to practice, is dealing with that sense of pressure. In rowing, for example, all of our race rehearsals were done literally with a roll call as we would expect it to be at the Olympics. And we would do it to the point where we're going to absolutely execute this as if it was the Olympic final. And so we would take a moment to visualize what that's going to look like, what it's going to feel like, and then we would execute. And when you practice it, you actually become better at it, like anything else in sport. And so that's your challenge, okay? One other little concept that I want you to think a bit about. All of this relates to what we call readiness. Readiness is literally, are you ready to perform? And so, for example, we did some work with a football team where before they go out onto the field, the players, we asked them to ask each other, are you ready? And you answer whatever you like. Okay, now ready means you have to be a 10 out of 10 ready. I am completely ready to do my best. Now, we will measure that if you are ready based on the quality of your touches in the first 5 minutes of the game. And you can have the same for any other sport. Okay, now if those touches were not of a high quality, so your initial 5-minute performance was not of the high quality, or your routine or whatever it is that you're doing was not at that championship quality, you weren't ready, but you thought you were. So now you realize that I said that I was ready, but I actually wasn't. And so you can do this content free. You can just now rethink about, okay, well, why did I say that I was ready, but when I clearly wasn't ready? So what does ready actually mean? Because now you know that what looked like being ready is now actually not ready at all. So the next time you go out to actually do your routine, check in again. Ask yourself, am I 100% ready? Okay, and when you go out, did you execute well? Did you do things as the level, the championship standard that you would expect to do them? If you're not, come back to your readiness and actually think about, do I need to physically be more ready? Do I need to stand? Do I need to breathe in a different way? Do I need to relax my face? What do I need to do? Do I need to smile? What is it the thing that I physically need to do? We used to tune into what it felt like to be holding onto the oars. So that was the physical touch with the boat. You could only feel the boat through your feet, through your seat, and through your oar, through your hands. And how much do you need to grip? Okay, how do you want to sit in the boat? What feel do you want to have on your feet? And they would be the things that you would connect with. Okay, and so check in with your readiness, make adjustments to your physicality, check in with that internal voice, and absolutely start to become accustomed to what it feels like for you to perform at your best. And what you'll start to notice is that once you start to practice it more often, you'll start to develop your own pattern. And once you develop that pattern, it's just a matter of running that pattern and being disciplined enough to run that same pattern when you're actually performing and having it count. So I hope that's helpful. It certainly was for me. It completely changed how I raced. And that was one of the things that we noticed about athletes, that as they get a little bit better, their performance doesn't do this anymore. It will still fluctuate. You're never going to be perfect all the time. but you take a performance that some days is like a 9.5 out of 10, and the worst you'll ever be is a 9 out of 10, which should still be good enough to get the job done, depending upon your competition. But that's your challenge. Please always reach out if there's any way that we can help, and let us know if you put that strategy into action and it works for you.